BBC News with Sue Montgomery. British and US intelligence say Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been hampered because President Putin is not being given an accurate picture of events on the ground. The White House spokesperson, Kate Bedingfield, said this was resulting in persistent tensions between Mr. Putin and top generals.
We believe that Putin is being misinformed by his advisors about how badly the Russian military is performing and how the Russian economy is being crippled by sanctions because his senior advisors are too afraid to tell him the truth. So it is increasingly clear that Putin's war has been a strategic blunder that has left Russia weaker over the long term and increasingly isolated on the world stage.
A head of British intelligence said Russia had massively misjudged the situation in Ukraine, and the troops sent there were now demoralised, short of equipment and refusing to carry out orders. There's been no response yet from the Kremlin. The Russian Defence Ministry says it will declare a one-day ceasefire on Thursday to permit the evacuation of civilians from the besieged port of Mariupol in southern Ukraine. It's to begin at 10 a.m. local and allow people to travel to Zaporizhia with the participation of the International Red Cross and the UN Refugee Agency. Previous attempts to establish a ceasefire in Mariupol have collapsed amid accusations of bad faith from both sides. At least 5,000 people are thought to have died in the Russian bombardment of the city. Fighting has continued across much of Ukraine, despite Moscow's promise to reduce its military activity in two northern regions. Our correspondent Jeremy Bowen is in Kiev.
There hasn't been any noticeable change in terms of the things the Russians talked about, which was reducing the tempo of what they were trying to do here around Kiev, the capital, and also in Chernihiv. I went out to a very large food warehouse that got hit and gutted, huge amounts of food destroyed in one of these Russian raids. So all of that is going on. I'm sure the Ukrainians are hitting them back with their artillery. But what all this means is that while the Russians clearly are unable to get into this city, they're not necessarily pulling back from it either.
President Putin and the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz have discussed Russian plans to try to get Western countries to pay for its gas exports in rubles rather than currencies such as euros or dollars. Russia has been pushing for this partly as a way of buttressing the ruble, but the G7 has refused. The president of Tunisia has dissolved the country's parliament 8 months after suspending it and seizing executive power. Kais Saied made the announcement after MPs held an online meeting in defiance of last July's suspension. Critics have accused him of trying to move towards one-man rule. World news from the BBC. The only trial in the US of a member of the Islamic State group has begun in the state of Virginia. The prosecution opened its case by saying that Al-Shafi al-Sheikh was part of a gang known as the Beatles, who were responsible for the deaths of 4 Americans and 2 British aid workers. The defence argued that the Sudan-born Londoner was not a member of the group and played no role in the killing. More than a dozen people have drowned while fleeing an assault by an armed gang in the central Nigerian state of Niger. Emergency officials say those who died were trying to escape a gun attack on their community in a flimsy boat which capsized. Attacks by armed gangs have increased in northern Nigeria, displacing nearly 1 million people. The body that runs the Oscars has started disciplinary proceedings against the actor Will Smith after he hit the comedian Chris Rock during the awards ceremony on Sunday. He could face being suspended or expelled. More details from Peter Bowes in Los Angeles.
It is one of the most shocking moments in the history of the Oscars. Will Smith, angered by one of Chris Rock's jokes about his wife, marched onto the stage and slapped the comedian across the face. Now the Motion Picture Academy's Board of Governors has started disciplinary hearings against the actor for violations of its standards of conduct, which include physical contact, abusive or threatening behaviour, and compromising the integrity of the organisation. The governors say Smith, who went on to win the award for Best Actor, was asked to leave the ceremony, but they say he refused.
A record crowd of 91,553 have watched the reigning European women's football champions Barcelona secure their place in the semi-finals of this year's competition. They thrashed Real Madrid 5-2 at Camp Nou. BBC News.